We've got the car, and he's then gone to Bugatti and gone, the lads have bought the car, I need to get this part, this part, this part. Porsche side or Bugatti side have said, absolutely no chance, we can't give you the part. But gearbox-wise, I think we should leave it because we won't know if I mess with it and cause a problem. We don't know whether that's going to be the problem I've caused or was...
Something was missing this weekend. No new upload, no teaser, no replacement clip. For one of the biggest car rebuild channels on YouTube, that silence wasn't laziness. It was a warning sign. Because when Matt Armstrong goes quiet, it usually means something huge is coming. Matt Armstrong has flown across the world chasing parts. He's worked through the night, fixing problems no one thought could be fixed. He has never once missed an upload. Until now. And the reason he finally broke that streak might be the biggest twist this entire rebuild has produced. This past weekend, something unusual happened on YouTube. Fans of one of the biggest car rebuild stories on the platform logged in expecting a brand new video. And instead, they found nothing at all. There was no upload waiting for them, no short teaser clip to hold them over, and no last-minute replacement video thrown together to fill the gap. Instead, Matt Armstrong posted a short and simple note. In it, he explained that the past few weeks of travel had finally caught up with him, and that the video he'd been quietly working on had grown into something much bigger than he originally planned. He told his audience not to worry, and encouraged everyone to relax and enjoy their weekend while they waited a little longer. For most YouTubers, a delay like this would not mean very much at all. Creators miss upload days constantly, and most viewers forget about a missed video within a day or two, moving on to something else in their feed. But Matt Armstrong is not a typical YouTuber, and this is not a normal, everyday project. He is the man behind one of the most watched car rebuild series on the internet right now, a series that follows a long and difficult restoration of a badly wrecked Bugatti Chiron per sport, a car so rare that only 60 of them were ever built by the factory. Over many months, Matt has shown his audience exactly what it costs in both money and effort to fix a hypercar like this one. He has flown across the world chasing rare and hard-to-find parts. He has stayed up late into the night trying to solve technical problems that most trained mechanics would never even attempt to touch. He has kept uploading through failure after failure, sharing both the small wins and the painful setbacks along the way, never hiding the difficult parts from his audience. So when a person with that kind of track record says a video became too big and too important to finish on time, his fans take the announcement seriously instead of brushing it off. Projects like this do not suddenly grow past their planned deadline for no reason at all. They grow because something major has happened behind the scenes, something that needed more time, more care, and more attention than a normal weekly update could ever provide. In this particular case, that something is tied directly to one of the most talked about and most closely watched hypercars anywhere on the internet today, a car that has already survived a serious crash, a long and painful rebuild, and a very public fight with its own manufacturer. The delay, in other words, was never really about Matt falling behind on his schedule. It was about recognizing that whatever happened this week with the specific car was simply too big, too important, and too meaningful to squeeze into a rushed, hastily edited video just to keep a normal weekly upload streak alive. Viewers who have followed the story from the very beginning understand that Matt has never taken shortcuts with this particular Bugatti, and this delay appears to be another example of that same mindset, choosing patience and quality over speed whenever the story genuinely calls for it. It also helps to think about how strange this behavior looks compared to normal YouTube habits. Most channels treat the upload schedule as sacred, because algorithms reward consistency and punish gaps, and creators know that a missed week can quietly hurt their numbers for months. Matt has built his entire channel on the opposite instinct, choosing to protect the story instead of protecting the calendar, even when that choice comes with a real cost to his own momentum. Fans who have watched this rebuild closely know that pattern well, because it has shown up before during earlier stretches when a plan fell apart the night before filming. Each time, Matt chose to slow down rather than rush, and the finished video ended up stronger for it. That history is exactly why this new delay reads as a signal rather than an excuse. People are not simply hoping the video is good. They are expecting it to matter because everything about how this specific delay was announced, calm, short, and confident rather than apologetic, suggests that Matt already knows exactly what he is sitting on and is simply taking the time needed to present it properly. The story behind this specific delay involved a company that most casual car fans have probably never heard of before, a company known as Venuum. Based out of Dubai, Venuum does not run typical advertisements on social media, and it does not operate a public storefront that everyday customers can simply walk into off the street. Instead, the company works almost entirely through private referrals, which means that new clients usually hear about them directly through word of mouth from other extremely wealthy car owners who have already used their services in the past. This kind of quiet, referral-based business model is actually quite common among the world's most exclusive car customization shops. The small group of people who can comfortably afford heavily modified Ferraris, Rolls-Royces, and Bugattis often move within very tight, closely connected social circles, and they tend to trust a personal recommendation from someone they already know and respect far more than they would ever trust an online advertisement or a flashy marketing campaign. Venuum has slowly built its reputation inside these private circles by creating extreme, fully custom carbon fiber body kits that completely change the way a car looks and feels, often pushing design far beyond anything the original car manufacturer would ever officially approve of or support. Their work is never about small, subtle styling touches, things like a slightly different front grille or a new rear spoiler bolted onto an otherwise stock car. Instead, their work is about completely reshaping the entire identity of the vehicle, widening its stance, altering its proportions, and giving an entirely new and much more aggressive presence whenever it appears on a road or at a car show. Very few average car enthusiasts recognize the Venuum name if you mention it casually, but among the small circle of people who actually own 6- and 7-figure supercars, the company has quietly earned a very serious and very respected reputation over the past few years. The truly interesting part of this entire story is not simply that Venuum showed up at Matt Armstrong's workshop with a set of parts. Plenty of specialty shops around the world work with expensive, rare cars every single day without making headlines. The genuinely interesting part is why Venuum showed up now, on this specific car, at this specific and highly emotional moment in its long journey, and what that particular decision reveals about where the owner's mindset has shifted after everything this Bugatti has already been through on its long road back to life. Understanding that shift requires looking back at the full, difficult story of how this car ended up in Matt's workshop in the first place, long before any helicopter or carbon fiber kit ever entered the picture. It also helps to understand what kind of company Venuum actually is once you strip away the mystery surrounding its name. This is not a large, publicly traded manufacturer with a global network of dealerships and a marketing department planning out a yearly release schedule. It appears to be a small, highly specialized team built almost entirely around craftsmanship, working on a handful of extremely expensive projects at any given time rather than trying to serve a wide market. That kind of business model only works if the people running it are genuinely talented, because a referral-based company survives purely on its reputation, and one poorly finished project can quietly end years of future business inside a small, closely watched community. The fact that Venuum has managed to grow a serious reputation among owners of Ferraris, Rolls-Royces, and Bugattis without any real public marketing suggests that their actual craftsmanship, not just their branding or their social media presence, is what keeps bringing new clients through the door. That detail matters a great deal here, because it means the Chiron project was not handed to a company chasing publicity. It was handed to a company that already had more work than it needed, and chose to take on this particular car anyway. Tio fully understand why this moment matters so much to longtime viewers. It helps to remember the complete journey of the specific Chiron from the very beginning. The car belongs to a man named Alex, and it began its life as a genuine factory-built Bugatti Chiron per Sport, widely considered one of the rarest and most powerful road cars ever produced by any manufacturer in the world. At some point after Alex purchased it, the car was involved in a serious and significant crash, the kind of accident that would normally send most hypercars straight to a scrapyard, or at best turn them into nothing more than a parts donor for another, undamaged vehicle somewhere else. Instead of simply walking away and accepting the loss, Alex made the difficult decision to buy the wrecked car back at a significant price, and he committed real money toward funding a full and complete rebuild, even though many people close to the situation genuinely believed it might not even be possible to save. Bugatti itself, through public statements made by former Rimac executive Mate Rimac, suggested at the time that a car damaged as severely simply could not be realistically repaired outside of the manufacturer's own official facilities and approved network. That single public statement instantly turned this rebuild into something much bigger than a simple repair job. It transformed the entire project into a genuine challenge, an attempt to prove that independent mechanics, working completely without factory support or approval, could still bring one of the most complicated and advanced hypercars in the world back from the dead using nothing but skill, patience, and determination. Matt Armstrong and his longtime mechanic Bob took on that enormous challenge together, and what followed was more than a full year of difficult, frustrating, and often genuinely heartbreaking work inside their shop. Parts were refused by the manufacturer over and over again. Basic components that should have taken days to order became nearly impossible to obtain through normal channels, forcing the team to search for creative and unconventional solutions instead. At one particularly dramatic point in the process, the entire car was literally split apart in half in order to properly access the badly damaged sections hidden underneath the body, an image that genuinely shocked many longtime viewers who had never seen the internal structure of a modern hypercar exposed so openly like that before. Even after major progress had clearly been made, small and frustrating setbacks kept appearing along the way, including serious cooling and radiator problems that threatened to undo months of careful, painstaking work in a matter of minutes. Through all of this difficulty, the entire process played out quietly inside a modest workshop in Florida, far away from the polished glass and steel of Bugatti's official service centers, with absolutely no factory guidance and no real safety net available if something went seriously wrong along the way. It is worth pausing on just how unusual that setting really was for a car of this caliber. Most Bugattis that need serious mechanical work are sent to specialized dealer facilities with factory-trained technicians, proprietary diagnostic tools, and direct access to engineering support from the company itself. None of that was available here. Matt and Bob were essentially reverse engineering solutions to problems that Bugatti's own engineers had spent years developing behind closed doors, often relying on careful research, trial and error, and a stubborn refusal to accept that something could not be figured out. Viewers watched this unfold in real time, week after week, which is part of why the audience of the series grew so large in the first place. People were not just watching a car get fixed. They were watching two independent mechanics slowly prove that expertise built through hands-on experience could stand up against a manufacturer that had publicly doubted them. That underdog dynamic gave the entire rebuild an emotional weight that a normal repair video would never have, and it is the same emotional weight that now surrounds this new wide-body chapter. By the time the car was finally running again, and Matt took it out for its very first real drive since the crash, something important had clearly changed deep inside Alex's relationship with the vehicle. In the beginning, most owners of extremely rare and valuable cars feel a strong natural pull to keep them in completely original, factory-correct condition, since that untouched originality is usually exactly what protects and grows their long-term value over time. But Alex did not go through a normal, easy ownership experience with this particular car. He went through more than a full year of watching his own Bugatti be publicly written off as unfixable by the very company that built it. He watched the manufacturer decline to offer meaningful help at almost every single turn along the way. He watched two independent mechanics fight for every single part and celebrate every small victory, no matter how minor it seemed at the time. That kind of intense, drawn-out experience tends to permanently change how a person feels about staying loyal to a brand. It becomes genuinely very difficult to feel a strong sense of obligation to preserve a car in exactly the way its manufacturer originally intended, especially when that same manufacturer showed very little real interest in helping bring the car back to life when it truly mattered most. This important shift in mindset became the emotional foundation for everything that happened afterward. Once the Chiron was finally back on the road and driving properly again, Alex stopped thinking about the car as something fragile and delicate that needed to be carefully protected in its original, untouched form. He started thinking about it instead as something he now fully and completely owned, in every possible sense of that word. A car he had personally fought hard to save, and a car he now had every right in the world to shape into whatever he truly wanted it to become. That particular mindset is exactly what eventually led him toward the idea of a dramatic, aggressive wide-body transformation. The kind of bold change that would have felt almost unthinkable to make on a perfectly stock, undamaged Chiron per sport straight from the factory floor, but that felt completely natural and even fitting on a car carrying the specific, hard-fought history behind it. It is also worth thinking about this shift from a purely human perspective, separate from anything related to cars or brands. People who go through a long, difficult struggle to save something they care about often come out the other side feeling a much deeper sense of ownership over it than they did before the struggle even began. A car that was simply bought and driven would never carry the same emotional charge. A car that was fought for, argued over, taken apart, and slowly reassembled against real resistance becomes something closer to personal achievement, almost like a project that reflects the owner's own persistence back at him every time he looks at it. Alex did not just pay for a rebuild from a distance. He was present through much of it, watching the setbacks happen in real time alongside Matt and Bob, which likely deepened that emotional connection even further. Once that kind of bond forms, the idea of simply returning the car to a plain, unmodified state can start to feel almost incomplete, as though the story still needs one more chapter before it can properly be considered finished. There is a simple way to think about this shift that most people can relate to, even outside the world of expensive cars. Anyone who has ever repaired something broken with their own hands, whether it was a piece of furniture, an old bicycle, or a family heirloom, knows that the finished object often feels different afterward, even if it looks exactly the same as before. The effort spent fixing it becomes part of what the object means to its owner. With a car this rare and this publicly documented, that same feeling is amplified many times over, because the effort was not private. It was filmed, shared, and watched by a large audience who cheered for every small victory along the way. That shared history between Alex, Matt, Bob, and the audience watching from home may be part of what made a bold, visible change feel like the natural next step, rather than something that needed to be hidden or minimized. That dramatic change arrived in a moment that instantly became one of the most talked about and most widely shared clips connected to this entire multi-year build. According to the story shared publicly around this announcement, social media star and professional boxer Jake Paul made a single phone call directly to Venuum's chief executive officer. Only one single week later, a full and complete carbon fiber wide-body kit arrived at Matt Armstrong's workshop. It was not delivered by a normal delivery truck, like most car parts usually are. Instead, it arrived by helicopter, landing dramatically right outside the workshop in a scene that genuinely looked more like something pulled from an action movie than an ordinary Tuesday at a car shop. While the large crates were being carefully unloaded from the aircraft, Alex was seen doing playful donuts in his own BMW around the landing area, clearly celebrating the exciting arrival of parts that would soon completely transform the identity of his beloved Chiron. That particular image, a helicopter slowly lowering a body kit onto a workshop while the car's owner happily spins circles around it in a completely different vehicle, is far more than just a fun, shareable visual clip made for social media attention. It genuinely tells you exactly where Alex's head and heart are right now, at this specific point in the story. He is clearly not being cautious anymore. He is not trying to carefully preserve the car exactly as it once left the Bugatti factory years ago. He is now fully and enthusiastically committed to building the exact car he actually wants to personally drive and enjoy for years to come. And he is doing it with the visible energy and excitement of someone who's been quietly waiting a very long time to finally reach this exciting point in his ownership journey. After everything this particular Chiron went through over the past several years, from the original crash, to the expensive buyback, to the long and exhausting fight with the manufacturer, to the slow and painstaking rebuild process itself, it genuinely makes sense that this moment of transformation would arrive with just as much drama, spectacle, and emotion as everything else that came before it in this remarkable story. There's also something worth noting about how quickly this moment spread once footage of it started circulating online. Clips of the helicopter landing and the donuts around it were shared far beyond Matt's usual audience, reaching casual car fans and general entertainment accounts who had never watched a single minute of the actual rebuild series. That kind of crossover attention rarely happens by accident, and it says something about how visually powerful a moment truly was on its own, without any context needed to appreciate it. A helicopter delivering parts to a car workshop is already an unusual sight. Combining that with the owner casually drifting a completely different car around the landing zone turns it into the kind of clip that works even for someone who has no idea what a Chiron Purse Sport is or why it matters. For longtime fans, though, the moment carries a much deeper layer of meaning, because they know exactly how far the specific car has come to arrive at a scene like this one. And that context is precisely what the delayed video is expected to properly explain from start to finish. It is also worth noting how unusual it is for a single short clip to spark this much conversation before the full story behind it has even been told. Normally, a moment like this would be released as part of finished video, with proper context leading up to it, rather than spreading on its own as a standalone clip ahead of time. The fact that it took on a life of its own suggests just how visually striking the moment truly was, strong enough to generate curiosity even among people with no prior investment in the story. That early attention likely raised the stakes of the full video even further, since it now has to satisfy not only the loyal fans who already understand the emotional weight behind the scene, but also a much wider audience who arrived simply because they saw a helicopter delivering car parts and wanted to know what was going on. Once the early computer-generated renders and preview images of the wide-body kit were shared publicly online, it quickly became clear that Venom had a very strong and thoughtful understanding of exactly what the specific car truly needed. A Chiron Per Sport already looks incredibly aggressive even in its completely stock, factory form, since almost every single line, curve, and vent on the car exists for a genuine functional and aerodynamic reason, rather than being included purely for style or visual flair. It is a car that was shaped first and foremost by raw performance, with appearance always coming naturally second. The new wide-body conversion clearly does not try to soften, simplify, or tone down any of that original aggressive character in any way. Instead, based on the early images, it appears to amplify and intensify everything that was already present in the original design. The wheel arches push noticeably outward in every direction to create a significantly wider overall track width across the car. The entire stance of the vehicle drops lower toward the ground and spreads considerably wider from side to side, fundamentally changing how the whole car presents itself visually from virtually every single angle imaginable. Early preview images strongly suggest a finished car that will look like something existing just slightly beyond what even Bugatti itself originally imagined this incredible platform could ever become, which naturally raises a genuinely interesting question that is worth sitting with for a moment. A Chiron Per Sport is already an extremely rare car, with only 60 total examples built by the factory in the entire world. The very instant this particular example receives a full and complete wide-body transformation like the one being planned, it effectively and permanently leaves a small group of cars it originally belonged to. It stops being simply one of 60 nearly identical Per Sports parked in various garages around the world, and instead becomes something entirely its own, a genuine one-of-one creation, built from an original factory hypercar, but completely reshaped into a fully custom machine unlike any other.